like to share with you three thoughts about GST, which is a significant change agent as you embark on this journey that has been just introduced to you for the value-added resellers. GST is very different from the way we have seen taxes until now: excise, value-added tax, service tax, and so on. The principle of GST is the first aspect that we will need to bear in mind. GST is a destination-based tax. It's a tax that has to reach the state where the consumption actually takes place. Until now, we have been used to paying tax on an origin-based system of taxation. Wherever the sale takes place from, that is the state we would pay tax. So the first question that would come to anyone's mind is, if I have a business in one or two states, but I have sales in multiple destinations, will I have to be registered in all of those? The answer to that is in the framework itself that's now available in the model GST law. It states that whenever you sell or supply any goods or services within your state, you have to pay a dual tax, CGST and SGST. Both those taxes will apply at the same time. And whenever you supply goods or services outside your state, you don't have to go to each location and be registered, but you pay only a union tax, which is the integrated GST. Instead of paying taxes to all these destinations, you just give it to the central government, who will transfer the credit to those respective destinations. So that's the first principle we will need to bear in mind, that GST applies on this destination principle. The second thing for you to recognize is GST, by its very nature, subsumes so many different taxes that we have been used to, including octroi and LBT. GST will reduce cost of sales. Your customers know that, and your partners know that. So there's no hiding the extent of reduction in price. So they will reach out into your pockets and take away the savings. So transparency is what the government expects in industry, so that the savings that will come from cascading of taxes being avoided should reach your customers eventually. That's the second principle. There will be reduction in cost of sales, and that has to translate into lowering of prices. The third principle that you need to bear in mind is that GST follows a digital system of documentation and compliance, which means your suppliers will upload information about all their supplies based on your registration number. And when you log in to the GST network, you will find that your purchases have been auto-populated. When you log in, you will find that all your suppliers have cited your GST number and have uploaded their sales data. So when you log in, you will find your purchases auto-populated. You only need to review, validate, and accept your procurement. With your purchases being uploaded by somebody, you will upload your supplies to various customers online. So this auto-population system requires that you have to be registered. You cannot operate without being registered, and there is a strong environment here which discourages people who are unregistered to be involved in the supply chain. As you all already are experienced, VAT or service tax has a credit system. Taxes paid, taxes that is applicable on the sales, a part of it has already been prepaid when you purchased, which is why you will offset the taxes paid against the taxes payable, and you'll only pay the net tax. So when you look at tax on value addition, you will only pay the net tax, although you have prepaid the credits that you are entitled to. So this credit chain is a continuous chain that should not be broken. So anyone who is involved in this supply chain who is unregistered will break the chain. People who break the chain will increase the cost of supplies, and therefore they will be eliminated from the supply chain and not permit those prices from being loaded with the tax all over again. So please bear this in mind. Credit of taxes is allowed only when your supplier has paid tax to the government. But how do you ensure that your suppliers pay tax to the government? The law expects not that Until now, you've been used to receiving the goods or services, having the relevant documentation on hand to claim credit, but the law says all those things are required, which you will anyway ensure. But the one thing that's important is for you to ensure that your suppliers pay tax in a timely manner to the government. And they have left it to the industry to self-regulate. When you talk about less governance, it automatically means that we expect the government to trust industry to regulate themselves. We don't want unnecessary policing and interference, which is not, which is counterproductive. So the supplier and the customer must regulate themselves to make sure that the admitted amount of tax is deposited with the government. There's a provision in the GST law to give a GST rating. Every registered taxable person will be assigned a GST rating based on the diligence that he exercises in his compliances. And if that rating drops, then you know that that supplier is most likely not going to pay the taxes he is collecting from you. So each person is expected to be conscious that that rating is not falling. It has to be in peak form, and that is going to be possibly one of the parameters for accepting as part of the vendor empanelment process in established organization. An IT industry of which you are a very integral part have a significant role to play, because there are more opportunities and there's more awareness of how to handle a digital compliance platform compared to the large amount of paperwork that's involved in every other industry. Government has chosen to move away from all of that and allow people to compulsorily operate by compliances on this GST network. We're hopeful that the government will publish the actual law in the month of November. By that time, we will have the rates of tax and the law available. So I would encourage everyone to take the effort not to leave GST and the related compliances to the accounts of the finance department in your organization, because engineers, people involved in customer facing, those who have customer facing responsibilities, to get a handle around the way GST works, the extent to which it will impact on the cost of sales, the opportunities that you have to translate those into lowering of prices will be a big advantage. Given that the rate of tax is expected to be in the order of 18%, it is excessively high compared to the margins in the business. So therefore, diligence is of utmost importance. The last point I want to lay before you for consideration is that in case we pay the wrong kind of tax, the law does not allow you to adjust it by restatement. The law expects you to pay the correct tax again and then claim refund of the tax paid wrongly. So there is very low tolerance for deviation from compliance, and I want to encourage everyone to welcome this significant, like Shetty said, it's a significant reform that we're seeing, and it has taken nearly 15 years to reach this point, and industry has its role to play in making this a reality. I wish you well, and that GST brings in the advantages that politicians have been talking about, so that those who are involved in industry can come to realize those advantages. Thank you very much.